but discovered my wife's infidelity just one day before our anniversary. I will never forget that day because the very next day was our anniversary. It's going to be a long story because I believe details matter. And I review the situation in my head daily. For our journey together spans nearly 3 decades. I've been married to my wife for 25 years, and I'm 50 years old while she's 48. We have 2 grown children, a 23-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter. Our story began in college where we met, dated, fell in love, and eventually tied the knot. Over the years, we shared numerous experiences, maintained open and constant communication, and thought we had a strong and fulfilling marriage. We always made an effort to address any issues that arose. We both had thriving careers and wholeheartedly supported each other in our professional endeavors. Throughout our journey, our love life remained vibrant, perhaps not as frequent as in our youth, but just as passionate. She's still the one for me. I co-own a small landscaping company that employs 70 individuals. I founded it right after graduating. Since the pandemic, she has been working remotely frequently, and we've been discussing the possibility of me gradually stepping away from the day-to-day management of the business. This would allow her to transition into part-time work, giving us more opportunities to spend quality time together and fulfill our travel plans, especially now that our children have become independent. Reflecting on our past, I can't identify any of the red flags I've read so much about in infidelity stories. There were no suspicious text messages, no guarding of her phone, no sudden changes in clothing or behavior, and no unusual nights out with colleagues. Whenever she did go out, it was typically with friends and family, and I would often hear from someone the next day urging me to join them. However, I encouraged her to have her own social outings, as I also enjoyed spending time alone in my workshop. She always came home early. But to say I was shocked is a vast understatement. Like just a week before D-Day, I booked a room for the weekend at a charming bed and breakfast owned by close friends. Restrictions had been lifted in our state, and this particular weekend was the weekend the Winter Festival was scheduled. I decided to leave work ahead of schedule, eager to surprise her and instruct her to start packing a bag. It's our anniversary, and I want to whisk her away for a special celebration. As I pull my truck into the driveway, my heart sinks as I immediately notice an unfamiliar car parked there. I had an inexplicable feeling, a premonition I couldn't explain. I desperately hoped that my intuition was wrong, but my gut kept telling me otherwise. Touched for a while, I sit and contemplate my actions. Should I walk away and resolve this issue with her? Bet this issue with her later? Should I walk away and pretend I didn't see anything at all? I'm unsure of what I'm doing. My nerves make me shake so badly that I can barely hold on, especially when I have a difficult task to accomplish at work. I've always told myself to man up and face every situation head-on. Suddenly the trembling stops, and I feel inexplicably calm even though everything inside me has turned upside down. I slip out the back door and there lies my black Labrador, as if he understands something and doesn't jump at me in delay. He stays put as I stealthily climb the stairs. Upon reaching the upper floor, I discern the sounds emanating from our bedroom. Approaching the door, I cautiously turn the handle and to my astonishment, I spot her boss atop my wife. I stand there momentarily paralyzed before blurting out surprise. The absurd spectacle that follows might border on comical if it weren't for the pain of the whole thing. It's when he tries to get out of bed, he gets tangled in the sheet. My wife's frantic cries of, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," fill the room as she desperately tries to cover herself, preventing him from untangling himself. Eventually, he manages to free himself and starts looking for his clothes, but finds them lying on the opposite side of the bed. This is just about where my stuff used to be. Without realizing why myself, I quickly took the clothes away from him. My wife's tears were flowing, and she repeats over and over again, "I'm sorry." I retreat to the door and he's standing next to the bed, completely undressed. I quickly grab a large chair from the corner of the room and set it by the door, sitting down. But when he requests his clothes, I decline and instead throw my wife's robe, which was hanging on the door, towards him. As he begins to approach me, it's worth noting that despite being 51 years old, I've maintained good physical condition thanks to years of regular gym workouts and landscaping work, standing at 6'3" and weighing 240 pounds. I fix my gaze on him and calmly state, "If you come any closer, it won't end well for either of us. You might end up in the hospital, and I'll find myself in jail. Why don't you just take a seat?" My wife, now in tears, buries her face in the pillow, and he complies, sitting down. Following an awkward and tense silence, he breaks it by asking, "What do we do now?" I respond honestly, "I have no idea." My wife, though still shedding a few tears, sits up. At that moment, I retrieve my phone and inform them that they will need to divulge everything while I record the entire conversation. They gaze at each other, and my wife inquires, "What am I referring to?" My response is straightforward. Absolutely everything. I mean every detail, just the inception, the duration, the timeline, the locations, the hotels, the dinners, and so forth. But the wife states, "Is that like the only case?" I reply, "That's utter nonsense. If it hadn't been going on for a while, you wouldn't have dared to bring it into our bed. If you deceive me once more, I warn, I'll be walking out that door and consulting a divorce attorney." Her tears well up once more. In the ensuing 10 to 15 minutes, the truth unfolds. It turns out that this has been transpiring for over 9 months, commencing with his flirtations and eventually escalating to him inviting her for lunch, to which she agreed. After a few drinks, they ended up at a hotel. That night, she returned home to me as if nothing had occurred. She insists that the guilt was eating her up, and she wanted to confess, but she struggled with finding the right way to do it. I call BS on that claim. And if it truly tormented you, it wouldn't have been so effortless to continue. They even attended a week-long work convention. She informed me that the company's policy had changed and spouses were no longer allowed to attend. I stow my phone away. Suddenly, an idea strikes me. I begin rummaging through his clothing in search of his phone and request the passcode. Surprisingly, he provides it, prompting me to start perusing through his phone. I discover some pictures of a woman whom I presume to be his wife and inquire about her name, guessing it's Carol. She appears quite attractive, but not as stunning as my Ashley. I request more pictures and come to know that they have 3 children. Finally, I stumble upon a family photograph featuring all of them together. I pick up the phone noting, "Such a great family. Why did you risk it all for a date with my wife?" He asks, "What do you mean you risked it all?" I say, "Do you really believe Carol won't find out?" I state, "I'm going to call her right now immediately." He rises to his feet and pleads, "No, you can't." My wife cries out desperately, "Please don't do this to him." Overwhelmed with emotion, I explode. "You can't do this to him. You destroyed our family, our dreams, broke my heart, and you're worried about him." And then I'm shaking, and I'm trying to hold back tears. I sink back into the chair, sobs overwhelming me. She moves toward me, wanting to comfort me, but I glare at her and say, "Don't come near me after some time." My emotions start to settle, and I glance at his phone once more. He pleads once again, "Please. I'm begging you. I swear I'll confess to her." I scoff in disbelief, retorting, "Yeah, right." He stands there, desperately imploring me not to proceed, but I locate her number and decide that a FaceTime call would be even more fitting. She picks up the call, her expression a mix of surprise and concern. She asks, "Who are you?" "Is my husband." "All right," I reply, "he's fine for now." But that won't last much longer. With a swift motion, I turn the screen to reveal him standing there clad in my wife's robe. I said, "I think you know him and the room he's occupying now." "Well, this is my bedroom, and the floral robe belongs to the woman in this room." I turn my phone around to capture my wife's attempt to hide under the sheets. But it's too late. Today I came home earlier than expected and found them in the midst of intimacy. I sincerely sympathize with her and deeply regret my action. I am filled with remorse. She started crying, and he tried to comfort her, but I know that excuses like it was just a one-time thing won't make it up to her. I advise her not to believe anything they say, as this affair has been going on for over 9 months. In fact, I've spent the last 15 minutes writing down everything they've said. I inform her that I'll send her my contact number via text, and she should reciprocate since the occasions are greatly from to the Prancies. By sharing her email address so I can forward the video, I hand him the phone. And as I listen, she tells him that upon his return home, he'll find a packed bag outside. She warns him that if he attempts to enter the house, she contact the police. And then hangs up. I hand him his clothes, and once he's dressed, he leaves. Now it's just my wife and me. She gazes at me, her eyes welling up with tears, and confesses that she never intended to hurt me. She questions if I can ever find it in my heart to forgive her. She starts with the typical excuses that cheaters often use. I lock eyes with her and firmly instruct her to pack a bag and leave my house, immediately descending to the lower floor. I pour myself a drink and take a seat on the couch when she eventually comes downstairs. Heading in my direction, I halt her with a simple, just stop. She inquires if we can discuss this situation. And I respond, perhaps, but not right now. I then express to her that it will be extremely difficult for me to refrain from seeking the services of a divorce lawyer. Her tears well. More. She gives me an unhappy look and says, I love you. I answer her emotionally, don't you dare say that right now, because I'm not sure I'll ever believe it again. Tears continue to flow as she turns away and exits through the door, watching her cry as she walks away. It feels as if my entire life is slipping away. I collapse onto the floor, overwhelmed by uncontrollable sobs and tremors. Time blurs, and it's hard to say how long this goes on. But eventually I managed to compose myself enough to sit down, though the tears still flow with a heavy heart. Tears rendering me unable to articulate what's wrong. My best friend, concerned, asks me what's happening, but I remain speechless. He then inquires if I'm at home, to which I manage to respond with a faint grunt, affirming that I am indeed at home. He assures me that he'll be there soon. Approximately 30 minutes later, he arrives at my house, tears still streaming down my face. I hand him my phone with the video ready to play. He starts watching and I find it too painful to listen, so I quickly get up to fetch us both a drink. As I enter the kitchen, he follows and takes the drinks from my hands, firmly stating that this won't help me. He insists that I can't spend the night alone here and goes upstairs to help me pack a bag. I descended the stairs to find him walking my Labrador on a leash, and we headed over to his place. I'm still feeling terrible. The following story is entitled Completion Achieved. While many stories can be quite intense, mine is not as dramatic. But I feel the need to share it. 5 years ago, I put an end to my relationship. Our journey together lasted 4 years, but it eventually ended, marred by her infidelity. For 5 years after that, I dedicated myself to personal growth, dealing with trust and commitment issues, and painstakingly working on myself. Eventually, I reached a point in my life where I found genuine contentment with the person I had become. I felt prepared to once again embrace love, and when I crossed paths with Kate, a remarkable 26-year-old woman, while I was 27. She embodied everything I had ever desired, in fact, everything anyone could hope for in a partner. I had won the heart of the woman every man coveted. The challenge, however, lay in the fact that she continued to attract the attention of other men, and she was relished in the knowledge of her desirability. My love for Kate burned with an intensity unlike anything I had ever experienced. Before I poured my heart and soul into that relationship, I invested every ounce of my heart and soul into our relationship, fully committed to being the best partner I could possibly be for her. I had been eagerly awaiting the opportunity to love someone, and she appeared to be the perfect match for me. However, it soon became evident that perfection was not part of the equation. Of course, she had her imperfections, but they were the kind that made her all the more genuine. Flaws were merely a part of the human experience. And when it comes to matters of the heart, hardly matter at all. We love who we love, and the heart's choices are guided by emotions, not reason. In many ways, unreasonable love embodies the purest form of love. However, to love with all your soul while knowing about flaws is a rare and perfect kind of love. One day, as we were going down the escalator, I noticed a message on her phone screen for her younger and less squeamish sister. The message read, "Do you think Mark is attractive?" 3 minutes later, her mood took a sharp turn for the worse and became rather unpleasant. I asked her what was bothering her. She remained silent, explaining that her sister could be unkind at times, unaware that I had glimpsed part of their conversation. What bothered me most was that our relationship was built on open and honest communication. So when she kept something from me, I could sense that something was wrong. Later that evening, my suspicion took over and I checked her phone. To my surprise, all messages to my sister had been completely deleted. Listen, it was obvious that she was hiding something, and though I tried to convince myself that it didn't mean anything, doubt crept into my thoughts. She possessed a genuinely kind heart that would not allow her to be harmed. So I refrained from addressing the issue by pressuring her. A few months passed, and she moved in with me. One day I noticed that something was wrong when she was writing in her diary. A curiosity took over and I inquired what she was writing. She refused to tell me. A few days later, however, we had a long conversation in which I asked her what she might be holding back, but she assured me that it was nothing important. Once more, my insecurities overwhelmed me, leading me to a moment of weakness where I succumbed to the temptation of reading her journal, covering the entirety of our relationship. Its pages were filled with entries like, "Woke up and daydreamed about Mark. I'm afraid that if given the chance, I might cheat on Sam with Mark. I will probably regret not getting involved with Mark. I sincerely wish for a chance with him as I am on hold, hoping that Mark will send me a message. I can't talk to not only Mark, but Sam as well." I told her that I had read the diary, and she explained that it was just fantasies, that she had limited herself to correspondence, and it was not real infidelity. She claimed that I had broken the trust because I had read her diary. We both admitted our mistakes and agreed that we had both erred in our judgment. I assured her that I was willing to give her a second chance, realizing that sometimes doubt can creep into our minds and we all get carried away with our thoughts at times. In a way, as a nation, I was comforted by the fact that she wrote down her thoughts and then let them go. Many of the diary entries were from when we were in a long-distance relationship. It had been about a month since the incident with the diary. On Friday, we went for a long walk, during which she delved into a discussion of our long-term future together, giving me her vision of how we would live our lives. She asked about how I would feel about raising children and even named possible wedding guests. In the evening, she planned a bachelorette party with her housemates and had drinks. I didn't get a single text from her that night, not even a simple good night message. several times throughout the night. I woke up with the nagging feeling that I already watched this movie. To spell my anxiety, I reached for my phone and discovered the cause of my anxiety on Instagram. It turned out that she had liked his latest picture that same night. Without thinking twice, I went to his profile first. She explained that she just liked the picture without sending him any texts or messages. After a conversation, we became intimate, had a lengthy 3-hour conversation, worked through our concerns, discussed the topics of having children and our long-term future, including the possibility of moving in together again and more while she was in the bathroom. I couldn't resist the urge to check her phone. I discovered a text to her sister inquiring, "Should I stay with Sam? He'd still love me even if I committed a crime. Or should I explore relationships with other guys?" There was also one text message from her to Mark. This message was an answer to a question with no prior conversation preceding it. Oddly enough, all previous messages were deleted, and she dozed off before erasing the last message. She had originally written it in her notes and then shared it via Instagram. Wondered how she could fall asleep socializing with other guys and not send me a simple message saying good night. Just as I was pondering this, she came back from the bathroom. "Kate, I want to believe you didn't have another meeting with someone last night, and did you have a conversation with Mark?" Tears. Her tearful confession was enough to ruin the chance I'd given her the previous month, and it was the hardest decision I'd ever made to break up with her on the spot. Leaving a woman I loved with all my heart was the most excruciating thing I've ever experienced. I had been upfront with her right from the beginning, making it clear what would hurt me the most, and she managed to do it perfectly. It's been 4 days since that moment, and we haven't exchanged a single word. Sleepless nights. I find myself lost in thoughts of her. I ponder whether I made a mistaken choice, if I simply let go of something that had the potential for beauty. I question whether all the love I poured into her will ever find its way back to me. Although it may not have been a case of physical infidelity, it was evident that her heart wasn't fully committed to our relationship. I believe I made the right decision. While my experience may not be as painful as some, the hurt remains nonetheless. It has left me with self-doubt that I didn't have before. I hope I wait for it. I realize that it is possible to be vulnerable and irrational in love. In my perception, Kate was and still is an angel. Every night I couldn't sleep, feeling vulnerable and emotional. A grown man weighing 195 kilograms and standing 182 centimeters tall, shedding tears and wondering if I had overreacted, if I had done the right thing, if I had missed the woman I had always dreamed of. Thank you for listening to the story to the end, and if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about the story.